Okay, another YouTube video. Let's go. Uh, awesome. All right, I'm back. And in this video, I want to talk a bit about my most recent marathon that I ran. This was my fifth marathon. And so, yeah, I just want to unpack a little bit how it went, dig into kind of the details of it and stuff. And I've basically asked ChatGPT to ask me a bunch of questions to kind of unpack it and to just kind of reflect on it, I guess, the ups and downs and where I go from here with marathon running and that kind of thing. So I feel like I haven't had a chance to like really go deeper and debrief on this, like even with myself. Obviously, I've talked about it with many different people, and you kind of give the highlights whenever you talk to people, but not always to be able to dig into the details of what made it difficult or great or other things too. So I feel like this is a chance to kind of, and like YouTube in general for me is just a chance to like, my last video was 30 minutes of me talking about work. That in and of itself, if nobody watches it, for me, it's like therapy just to like talk it out. And obviously I feel like I could have kept talking for hours about it, but at the end of the day, it was 30 minutes. Like that's pretty long video. So I feel like I can just like in these videos go deeper on things that are in my head. It's good to just get it out. And like, I feel like that's been maybe one of the best things about YouTube so far. And I'm off on a tangent here already to start the video, but anyways, let's dig into the marathon. I think I already mentioned this, but I've asked ChatGPT to come up with some questions to help me reflect on it. So I've chosen kind of some of the top questions I thought would make sense. So starting with what made this marathon different from others I've run? Not a lot. I feel like the marathon, I've done this course. This is my fifth time now, or fourth time. The first year running the marathon was a virtual one because it was during COVID. So anyways, this was, the fourth time running this course. So I understand the course very well. I know where the hills are. I know where the challenges come up. I know where, it's, you get to catch your breath again and the downhills and stuff too. So that's the benefit of running the same marathon again and again is you really start to understand it. And I feel like that helps you ultimately probably run a better race. So that in and of itself, the marathon, I know it very well, and I know the experience of the marathon as well. So I know the energy that comes with it. I know that you want to start and out the gate and you want to run really quickly, but you've got to avoid that as much as possible. So the marathon running process and that course, very, very similar. I guess the biggest thing that made this one different though was that I'm a new dad. And I think that I don't want to lean on that as a crutch or that as an excuse. So I'm very aware of that. But, obviously it played some role in my ability to train and to sleep as much as I have in previous years. Even though I don't do a lot of the night stuff with Meyer these days, like that is very much Lisa. But even so, it's just you wake up way more often. Also work and stuff too, trying to kind of fit that in after he's gone down. So starting work in the evenings, for instance, when I do that kind of thing, that's later in the day. So, you just don't sleep as much with a kid. And then training, like I don't want to be always away on the weekends or running for hours at a time and leaving Lisa and to kind of do everything on her own with a kid either. So, it's balancing and like, yeah, I think that it raised challenges with trying to get the weekly kilometers in. Like I did have a training plan in place and shout out Braden Rala for helping me with that. I should do another video just on that specifically. I probably will at some point, but the training was there. The training plan was there, but the time to execute it was difficult. And like, again, I could have woken up earlier or I could have snuck it in different ways too. So it's on me still to figure that training part out. And I knew that, I would be a dad and that this would be a challenge. And it just like, I guess that was the biggest difference. At the end of the day, the question is what made this one different? I think it's just being a new dad. Other than that, it was, pretty business as usual. Let's move on. I feel like I was trying to get into so many different things in that first one. See, it's just pouring out of me. I feel like that's why this is therapeutic, just to talk it out. Okay, quick coffee break. Okay, next question. What were your expectations going into this race and were they realistic? Absolutely not realistic. And my expectations are never realistic, especially when it comes to personal goals and running. I like to push myself and to set very lofty goals and try to even come close to them. And I love to obviously hit them, but if I don't, I still end up doing something impressive. So, my ultimate goal when it comes to marathon running is to run a sub 3 hour marathon. and then use that to qualify to run all the coolest races in the world. The biggest one, for instance, being Boston. I need to run Boston Marathon at some point in my life. I'd love to run New York. I'd love to run Berlin. Some of those you don't need to qualify for, but some it helps that you have a qualifying time, so you don't need to like win a lottery to run it, let's say. So, I guess expectations, coming back to the question, it's like I wanted to run a sub 3 hour marathon, but I did not put in the time or the training required to do that yet, if I'm being realistic. So, yes, like I didn't go into the race thinking I was going to run a sub 3 hour marathon, but there was a part of me that still wanted to do that. And even throughout training, naively kind of thinking like, oh, I'm training enough to be able to do that. Like, no, like you want to run sub 3, you've got to really commit and spend the time, to earn that. And I do think it's possible, and I will do it at some point in my life. I can promise myself that. And I'll come back to this video when I do it and be able to look back on this. So I will run a marathon, and the light is pouring in right now. So hopefully this doesn't completely blow up my shot. Anyways, yeah. So, realistic expectations, I didn't think sub 3, but maybe I thought, 3:15 or at least beat my last personal best, which was 3:22 or 3:21, I believe. And so, I really thought that I would be able to at least beat that time, and I didn't. So yeah, I don't think I trained as much. I think in some ways I did, or I came out the gate really strong training initially in the first kind of like few weeks of it, but then tapered off too quickly. And I think there was challenges that came in that I kind of already spoke about a little bit with balancing being a new dad and stuff too, that played a role too. But I don't think that I guess my training didn't match my expectations, I had too high of expectations, and the training output didn't match that, I guess, if that makes sense. So take it as a learning for myself to, marathons that are not going to get easier. If anything, it's going to get more challenging. So you've got to put the work in if you want to keep beating your time. I say that to myself. As a reminder, just like, you don't get to just go and run a sub 3 hour marathon or a 3:10 or 3:15 even. To beat my next personal best, I'm going to have to work really hard at that. So yeah, that's kind of on expectations next question was, what did your training actually look like this time? And were there moments you doubted you'd be ready? I feel like I kind of already spoke about that a little bit and sort of tied in with the last question already, but what did your training actually look like this time? Yeah, it was, like I said, I had a training plan laid out for me by a running coach. Again, shout out Braden. He was super helpful and gave me a good structure. And that's the first year that I've had an actual like running structure. So, a spreadsheet that kind of tracks, I think it was like 3 months, down to like each week basically, and what was required each week. And I think it was like ideally like 5 workouts a week. And some of those were runs, some of those were like fast runs, some were more recovery runs. Some of it was track running. And then also cross training, like at least once a week, doing some sort of other activity like basketball or yoga or Pilates or things like that to kind of mix in as well. And so, I did do a lot of those workouts, like I at least worked out 4 days a week pretty much the whole time, and did the cross training. But one thing I never did was track running. I don't know what it is. I feel like there's a good track somewhat close to my house. And there's a running club that goes and does track Tuesdays. Like, I don't know what's holding me back from going, just participating in that. I feel like running for me is always just solitude. Like, I enjoy the solitude of it. I enjoy just being alone and having time to think and not socialize. And so now taking that and making it into this big, like, it's a very big club. Like it'd be more of a social thing. Like, I guess you can go and just stay in your own lane, pun not intended. I don't know. I resisted the track training for whatever reason. And I think that next time, if I want to set a better time, I really have to just do the track stuff. That is what helps a lot with speed and lung capacity and things like that too. So no excuses. Next time I really need to commit to that. I did great on the cross training. I feel like I did yoga or Pilates every single week. I could have probably done more strength exercising in my legs and glutes and things like that. I think next time I will work more of that into it. But, and the runs too. Like I did back out from a lot of the long runs on weekends. Like for instance, on Saturday or Sunday, that's usually when the long run happens. And it's like, starting at, I think it starts at like 15 kilometers. And then you're at the end of it, you're going up to, 36 kilometers is the longest training run basically. So it's, just shy of a marathon, 5 kilometers shy of a marathon or 6 kilometers. So, and those long runs, like they take a lot of time out of your weekend, and you're gone for a few hours, and then your legs are pretty done after. So it's hard to balance that with having a kid and the expectations and like what I also need to do at home and stuff too, to be a helpful dad and a good dad, and one that can still play on the ground and not be wrecked for the rest of the day and stuff too. So I think there was a little bit of like pressure to like, don't train so hard that like you can't do other things kind of thing too, and like be able to keep up with work and home life and all those kinds of things too. So I don't know. Yeah, training this year was a bit of a mix mash of emotions and stuff. Obviously there's a lot going on here, and I feel like I'm not very organized with my thoughts, but as you can tell, there was a lot to it, a lot of different facets to kind of consider. I think there's a lot of room to improve my training. This was at least the first year of having a training plan, so I will definitely do that again in the future. I feel like it really helps to see the numbers and to be able to check kind of boxes as you go, to really kind of see how consistent you were, and that sort of thing, and be able to see the percentages. I need to see numbers. It really helps me to like work toward goals, to be able to just like see it on paper and see the progress being made with my own eyes. So anyways, there was some good stuff that came out of training this year, and there was some stuff that needs to be improved, but that's kind of the, I guess, overall recap of it. Next question. Were there any specific moments or milestones during the race that stood out to you? Yeah, I'd say the first moment that stood out to me was, not in a good way, was I'll share one good one first. Kind of, you probably don't know the BMO marathon route, but when you're sort of, I think it's around kilometer 20-ish, and you're in Stanley Park, and, it's flat, so it's not super hard. But you've already run almost a half marathon. And I guess one moment that stood out to me was the pacer that we were running with. She's this, I want to say she's like 40 something, woman. And she's talking to everybody. She's hyping everybody up in the group that's running at this pace. Basically, it's like this big group that's all running at this 3:20 pace, I think it was. And it's just so impressive that she is like, holding this like marker, this 3:20 marker, so like the other runners can see, okay, yeah, she's the 3:20 pacer, and you're running with all these people, and she's hyping everybody up. She's talking as she's running, and she's like sharing motivational stuff and like telling you tips and stuff, like, oh, have your energy gel now, and that kind of thing. It's like, that's so badass. Like, she's just out here, like, we're all just trying to freaking survive the marathon, and she's out here like holding this pace thing. She's talking to everybody, like she's making it look like it's just no big deal. So yeah, and I think I called it out at some point. I was like, you're such a badass. Like, thank you for leading us, kind of thing, during the race. Just emotion and just pure like excitement kind of coming out of me. I was like, you're awesome. And she appreciated that. And a bunch of the people all kind of agreed and stuff too. So that was a cool little moment. And then shortly after that, I was trying to stick with that group as long as I possibly could, and I could tell that it was going to fade at some point. But we got into around Kits basically, and Kits Beach area, and so pretty deep into the race at this point. Definitely coming into the last quarter basically, and it was at that point that I was like, I'd already been running on what felt like fumes for the last 10-15 minutes probably, and just staying with the group at that point, I was like, every step was like, I can't stick with this group. I can't stick with this group. I can't stick with this group. I can't keep this up. I need to walk. And I fought that for as long as possible, but that kind of kept replaying in my head. It was like, you just need to take a quick walk. Just slow down, like catch your breath. And at some point I gave into that, which sucks. Like I wish I didn't. But at the same time, it's like, did I do the training to be able to say no to that voice? I don't know. No, I don't think so. And so it's like, it's frustrating because I know that I can do better. And at some point I gave into that, like, you can't run. But, now I have to look back and say, well, what if could I have just pushed a little bit more. Like, what if I could have gotten, up the Burrard Bridge, and then there's a bit of hill going down. Could I have caught my breath and stayed with them even longer, kind of thing. So now you've got to run through the what ifs in your head. So I hate that. And so I think that was the moment for me where I broke down a little bit, and I caved and I walked a little bit at Kitts Beach area. And that was, from that point on, it was like now mentally okay for me to be like, okay, yeah, I can take a quick little walking break. And that kind of continued throughout the rest of the race, basically for the last quarter of the race. So I think ultimately when I look at the race now, it's like, it has a bit of a damper. Like, yes, I did another marathon. Yes, it was a pretty good time in all things considered. But I just know that I was capable of doing more. And so that part frustrates me. And now it's like, I left stuff on the table, and I hate that feeling. So I think that was the main point of why I wanted to make this video, was really just this feeling of like, I could have done more, or I should have done more. And yeah, but that's the thing about running that I love too, is like, there's always another run, and you could always continue getting better. And that's the plan for me, is just to kind of keep going back at this and keep improving and stuff. So it's a lifelong journey for me, for sure. But I think, yeah, that was a big moment, kind of trying to circle back on the answer again. That was a big moment at Kitts Beach when I first walked for the first time. And I was a bit of a disappointing one, because I felt like I was gassed at that point. Like, I had worked really hard and I had gotten to that point, and I had stuck with that group the whole time, up until 75% of the race, let's call it. So that in and of itself is great. Like, I'm not trying to diminish my own accomplishments, but, I just wish I had more in me to be able to keep going to that point. And to stick with the group longer, and maybe take a first walking break, like into like the last lap around Stanley Park or something like that. But yeah, I feel like I caved a little bit early, and now in hindsight, just wish I could have gone further. But anyways, I'm worried this video is going to be extremely long again. Let's see. Okay, were there any specific moments or milestones? Yeah. Okay, we did that. So how has your relationship with running changed over the years? I feel like it's more important than ever to keep running now, because I feel like, keeping up with mental health and life is more complex than ever, I would say. And with between work and dad life and all, friends and all the different things that we all have going on in our lives. And so I feel like it's more important than ever to stay on top of it for me, to keep running. It's really like my meditation time to, think and come up with ideas and to process emotions. And it feeds into all areas of my life. That's why I love running so much, is that it helps me. Like, I come back from a run and my mood is in a completely different place, because, I've worked through that stuff in my head, and I'm able to obviously get those endorphins. And then now I feel like I can accomplish anything. Like, I feel like I can go and just go at stuff in a new energy, in a new way. And so, yeah, I feel like if anything, running is just becoming more and more important for me. Since running the marathon in May, it's definitely been a little bit slower. Like, I haven't run as much. And also, I had a surgery in there too with my teeth, and we were away in Spain for 3 weeks too. So I took a bit of a time off from running too, but now, like, over the last few weeks, I've been kind of running again every week, and maybe once or twice or that kind of thing. So not a lot, but, still working it in. And then also the cross training stuff, still working on doing yoga and HIIT classes and things like that. So I'm trying to be more balanced right now. Like, I would say I'm not at a huge, like, major running focus at the moment, but yeah, I'm still, quite balanced and still running every week. And running is not going anywhere in my life. If anything, I'm going to continue to do more of it. And I want to run more marathons for sure. And that kind of answers the last question I have here. But there's one more question before that too, which is, what advice would I give someone running their first marathon or chasing any big goal? Well, let's just focus on the marathon thing. The biggest advice I'd have for that, for if you're running your first marathon, would be that you're going to come in, like, obviously nervous and excited, but, feeling all different kinds of things going into that race and stepping onto the starting line. And there's a lot of people, there's a lot of energy, and you will have trained a decent amount, let's assume. And so you're going to be able to have, you could run, you could sprint out of that gate if you wanted to, and you'd feel great. And so, it's really about keeping that energy in like not blowing through it too quickly. I think the biggest thing is to find a pacer and stick with a pacer and stick on a pace that you know is realistic for you. Because if you burn too much energy at the beginning, you will suffer and you will pay for it later in the race. So I think, yeah, my first marathon, naively, and maybe this is just super obvious to everybody else except for me, but my first marathon, I ran way too quickly at the beginning, and I was like, why is everyone like running so like slow? Like I can blow by all these people. Like, let's just keep going. And I was just passing everybody. And then all of those people passed me later in the race. So yeah, it's important to just really keep your energy in check at the beginning and spread it out throughout the race rather than use so much on the front portion, because you're going to feel like $1 million in that front portion, but you're going to feel like shit later in the race. So yeah, I would just say balance the energy. And then the last question was, will you run another marathon next year? So I already said yes. I'll absolutely run another marathon next year. I think I'll run the BMO Vancouver again. Part of me is like, should I just do it for the, every year for the next 30 years? Just as a really cool accomplishment to have in life, like maybe. But I also really want to run marathons in other cities. Yeah, I haven't run a marathon in another city yet. So I think that's a big part of what I want to do. And, whether that's Calgary Marathon or something in Europe, or, make an excuse to go run something in Japan, or who knows. There's a lot of cool marathons in this world, and there's ones obviously beyond Vancouver. So I'd love to go and try a different one somewhere. So that's probably going to be a goal for next year, but I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe I can run 2 next year. I keep saying that I'm going to do that, and I haven't done it yet. So, let's see. But I'm definitely open to running Vancouver again. I haven't signed up for it yet. I'm going to wait a little bit and kind of see how it goes, and that kind of thing. But yeah, definitely want to run more marathons, and I'm saying it here now. I will run a sub 3-hour marathon. It is happening. Let's just see when. Yeah. Anyways, that kind of recaps the latest marathon. I guess if I could summarize, would just be, I'm happy that I got another marathon in the bag, and I'm proud that I've run 5 of them at this point. This last one was, I think the time was 3:30, and the time before that was 3:22, I believe. So, 8 minutes a little longer than my personal best, but 3:30, still a solid time, still happy with that. And I just know that there's more of me to give, and that I think I'm naturally a very good runner, and that I'm built for that. And so if I could really focus my training in and commit and be dedicated to a training plan, then I could do something probably really exciting in this space of my life. So yeah, more to come on this journey, but that's where it was so far. Hope this video was interesting and kind of give you some ideas and insights into marathon running and the experience of it. But yeah, I'll cap it there and get on with the morning here. And yeah, see you in the next video.